culture as inspiration for intellectual evolution in the black world. Table of content, chapter 1, page 1. Introduction and background, statement of problem, hypothesis, purpose of the radio network, theoretical framework, methodology, literature review, scope and limitations, outline of radio network, bibliographies, Blackology, network, values, tradition, and culture, inspiration for intellectual evolution in the black world, a proposal by Blackologist, Professor Walter Zamani, Close, UPCD. Introduction, background. Blackology is the name of the blackological intellectual science, originating in the black diaspora within the United States during the 1960s and 70s. It proclaims the necessity of black people to rely on themselves. It proclaims the necessity of black people to rely on themselves. Say it one more time. It proclaims the necessity of black people to rely on themselves for evolution and proclaim the blackological knowledge in the black diaspora as African or black African culture. Blackology drew on a tradition of blackological thought in black diaspora associated with intellectual movements and emerged during the time when traditional movements, especially Pan-Africanism, had been driven deep underground by colonial repression. It also drew on the rhetoric and ideology of black power, black theology, human rights, civil rights, coming out of the United States in the 1960s in the city of Chicago, Illinois, on the south side, in the Inglewood area. It is essential to point out that there are 4 schools of thought relevant to blackology, which demands specific attention of blackologists of the 20th century. The first relates to the assumption that all black people are not in comprehension of blackology, nor do they know that they are black. The second is that black people in particular must be taught the intellectual, ethnic, and cultural definition of what blackology means to them, and according to their experience from their environment and elements. This, of course, is an important element of black people understanding of blackology as it relates to values, traditions, culture, and inspiration for intellectual evolution in the black world. The third is that every effort must be made by black scholars, blackologists, and black institutions to teach the black diaspora, black leadership, and every black man, woman, child to know what blackology is. This is necessary so to provide a conception of what blackology is upon demand. The fourth and final is that every black man, black woman, youth, and black child should be educated about the definition of blackology through the discerning of profession of blackologists, specifically those who are the advocates, authors, and practitioners of blackology. It is important to mention that there has been some misconceptions of some people about blackology. Many of them talk about blackology and even write about it. Blackology as a matter of black historic event has always been intellectual, ethnic, and cultural philosophy of its blackologists. This philosophy was intensified by blackologists who academically and theoretically put blackology in a practical reality based on the several significant situations of black people cultural conditioning. Blackologists therefore laid the foundation that made it a theory, a discipline, and an applied method and a cultural science. Blackologist was and is an intellectual cultural scientist, and their craft, talent, and gift was and is blackology. Blackology is a calling. When it comes to blackology, scientific application is its approach. According to Bantu Stephen Biko, December 1971, you have committed yourself to fight against all forces that seek to use your blackness as a stamp that marks you out as a subservient being. In the spirit of Stephen Biko, briefly defined, therefore, blackology would be the essence of realization by the black man of the need to rally together with his brothers and sisters around the cause of their oppression, the blackness of their skin, and to operate as a group in order to rid themselves of the shackles that bind them to perpetual servitude. Blackology is an autonomous vision and an intellectual understanding of the relationship between black people and their construction about themselves and the black world. Collectively, it is how black people see themselves, not how others see them, but how black people see themselves. It is the awareness of the need for continuous evolution to the values and traditions of black experience and black culture. It is a righteous way of knowing and evaluating and dealing specifically with black life here and now. By blackologist Professor Ruka Zamani. Quote, May 1, 2009. Quote unquote, 2TNRE. Now, let us deal with what blackology is not. Blackology is not only wearing your hair in a natural or dreadlocks. Blackology is not listening to music by black artists. Blackology is having read a book by black scholars. That is not the extent of what blackology is. Blackology is not only the practice of celebrating black holidays. Blackology is not a look or a fad. Now it is for us to let you know as blackologists. Now let us deal with what blackology is. Blackology is a state of intelligence, productive, creative, and ingenious way of living, a cultural experience of black people. It is a conclusive of all that is above, and it is a total black experience and existence for 3 million years ago to the present. Blackology is spiritual and physical. It is standing for your culture but nobody else will. It is being black and proud of it. Blackology is the science for the justice, redemption, advancement of black people, and the redevelopment of black African culture. This radio network is being conducted as an informative analyst about the humanitarian aspects of the nature and evolution of blackology as an inspiration for intellectual evolution in the black world. When blackology was first inspired by values, traditions, and culture in the black diaspora over the last 30 years. It is an evolution within the black world. In the 1st and 2nd century, Blackology was invented in opposition to the existing zoological thought to that era, which perpetuated that black culture vanished swiftly and into slavery and captivity, that black Africans had little group pride, black story, or coercion. Nor did black scholars have any intellectual thought. Blackology uncovered a culture of wealth, revealing an affluent and intricate black African oral tradition, including documented and oral music, songs, proverbs, jokes, folk tales, myths, and legends. Long stories that dated back prior to the intervention of European colonialism and Arab imperialism. The fact that these thoughts and foundations seem so ordinary at present is in great part owed to the many books, studies, research that followed, which was developed by Blackologists. Blackologist Dr. A.M.D. Sully and Blackologist Professor W.C. Close, UBCE, worked on research and radio network that was part of the intellectual evolution in black African culture, and they profoundly influenced an entire generation of black people, and these works continue to be read and taught. This new reflection within intellectual trends in the black story or black historiography can be read and taught by all who seek to understand, overstand, recognize, and inquire about Blackology in general. This radio network adds to the understanding and overstanding of the origin of Blackology and how it has inspired in the struggle between black people and the racial oppression. What you will know in this radio network is that the original Blackology has been the relentless struggle to prevail over the barriers of racial injustice and the reality of desperate treatment of racial identity between black people and colonialism. This has created a reality in which black people and non-black people may live closely with one another, but perceive intellectual evolution in different ways. These collective experiences of intellectual evolution and this black story of resistance and oppression have given rise to several overlapping group strategies or critical perspectives within the black world, which has as their objective to educate black African people. In this sense, the struggle of black people has been risen to Blackology, a sense of our black world and its need and aspirations for cultural autonomy. The major issues that lead to this dimensions of intellectual mind of black world have been moving towards the operation and objectives of Blackology as inspiration for intellectual evolution in the black world. Blackology is a broad category that encompasses cultural perception, honor, pride, or black pride, black power, and even rebellion, and evolutionary notice as it relates to chronologically subjugated population, nation, or group acting and reacting against its oppression. In addition, one will be able to say that Blackology is a science of artistic identity, aspirations, and union of people of the world by those of black origin. The origin of use of the word black begins in the captivity and enslavement era, the use of blackness and the articulation of black nationalism by Dr. Martin R. Delaney in Maryland, late 1800s, is the genius of blackology. The concept of blackology was implied in the 1920s, and it developed rapidly in the black diaspora within the United States, where Marcus Garvey began the promotion of African culture and traditions as inspiration for intellectual evolution. During that time, it was relevant to the Harlem Renaissance, which expressed black people in locations of significant artistic and musical visibility. Also, during the 1930s in Africa and the Caribbean, the writings of Amy Caesar, Leopold Sedar Senghor helped to cultivate negritude, the belief that black Africans has a distinctive cultural heritage which has to be conserved against colonial pressures towards Europeanization. On both sides of the Atlantic, there has been nostalgia for the beauty and harmony of traditional black African culture based on emotions, intuitions, and spontaneous interaction as against the rationalistic traditions of European Hellenism. In the 1950s and 60s, it spawned a variety of movements in the U.S. such as the Civil Rights, Black Power, and Black Awareness movements, and intersected with blackological movements with the black world and within the black world. Statement of the problem. At this point, in the second and third centuries of the redevelopment era of black culture, the efforts of blackologists to build this intellectual cultural science and structure the evolution and identity, there is a need for cultural insight into problems and solutions, facing the comparison of their values, traditions, and cultures. There is a need and demand for the renaissance of blackology as inspiration for intellectual evolution in the black world. What must be done to meet this challenge? In this radio network, there are two ways in which we will look at some resolutions to this problem. They are the following. One, recognize the intellectual atmosphere in which culture and traditions is central to grasping the subtle and not so subtle nuances of blackological movement. As Black Power movement received international attention during the mid-late 20th century, the movement set the stage for related and successive intellectual evolutions in the black world. Therefore, it can be said that these blackological movements are linked to the stitching of intellectual freedom of actions. This thrust of hope encouraged black people to achieve whatever their goals were as far as culture is concerned, so they could struggle for correspondence and autonomy. Take a look at decades of literary discourse blackologists have composed about how to best sanction the black world by realizing the vision of blackology and its various ideological expressions. Articles in this radio network provide several authorities to enlighten the readers. On the subject of authenticity for blackologists, as well as their outstanding communal impact, Black Blackologists provide a stimulating look backwards with the guarantee of a more truthful, communal, and cultural expectations of the experience of black people. Hypothesis. What is the relationship between black culture, traditions, values, and the intellectual evolution in black people and the black world? There is a tradition of blackologists working on a network of set of facts, values, lexicons, data, or contemporary model of black historical, theoretical, cultural variables that interact to the promotion of implementation of blackology into academic and grassroots institutions. The research and studies by blackologists on black African culture and traditions encourage the promotion of intellectual evolution in the black world. 2. Sensitive government policies can be eliminated and alleviate the alienation of blackology in education systems within the black diaspora within the United States. The policies and research that challenges scholars to create new sets of facts, lexicons, data, philosophies, and theories in HBCU doctoral programs is an opportunity for blackologists to use their intellectual genius and creativity to build autonomous cultural institutions. 3. The higher the level of cultural traditions and values in the black diaspora, the higher the opportunity for intellectual evolution. There is a positive relationship between culture, traditions, intellectual evolution, and blackology. According to blackological scholars at PVA University, Dr. C.O. McDaniels, it is obvious that acts and propositions combine to make theories, and that theories may be expressed at the various levels. Conceptualizing scientific research implies assessing relationships between or among concepts. As much the conceptual phase is the crucial importance, and it involves a dynamic and intimate interplay among concepts, formations, problems, specification, and hypothesis statements with theoretical, logical, theoretical, or empirical justification. The researcher begins with a general feeling of uncertainty, a problem regarding the key concepts. He then forms a problematic concept in terms of its variations over time, space, and situation. The next step is to form a concept which names the variation. At this point, the researcher carefully designs a partisan product or combines all the possible predicate sets. A partisan product between blackology and intellectual evolution may look like this. The higher the level of values and traditions in blackology, the higher the opportunity for intellectual evolution. Blackology and values equal opportunity for intellectual evolution. High, medium, and low levels. Synthesis. A relationship is any set or ordered pairs drawn from the partisan product, which connects all the three predicates of the achievement with two or more predicates of blackology. For example, the higher the quantity of African culture and traditions, the higher the demand for blackology. African culture and traditions equal high demand for blackology, high, medium, and low. The higher the equality of new norms, values, and intellectual structures, the higher the fruit of new ideals, quote-unquote black blackology, new norms, values, institutions, equal proof of new ideals, blackology, quote unquote, high, medium, and low. The more the use of African culture and traditions, the more the proof of blackology. African culture, traditions, equal proof of blackology. African culture and traditions, equal proof of black consciousness. More or less black consciousness. But there is always some relationship. A relationship is a set order or pairs of predicates. Any more order pair is two predicates or a set of two predicates, or different predicate sets in which there is a fixed order in which they appear. The search for such theories is not done capriciously nor simply. In fact, it is frequently taken weeks or even months to state the problem and hypothesis, which sounds theoretically justifiable. The purpose of this radio network is to examine blackology in the black world. In doing so, it studies 1. Intellectual ideas of black African culture and tradition by black scholars. 2. Inspiration for intellectual evolution. And 3. A critical assessment of intellectual black movements for new norms, values, lexicon, and institutions. Each chapter will provide an analysis of issues that speak to the phenomena of blackology as inspiration for intellectual evolution. Likewise, the objective for coordinating this work makes an ongoing advancement and contribution to the forward flow of research and data in the field of black African culture and black culture, and specifically in the intellectual cultural science of blackology. In addition, the gathering of articles in the radio network aims to offer a different examination for rationale and construction of intellectual and institutional and individual systems on a local, national, and international level. Blackology stands at the crossroads. Blackology stands at the crossroads. I'm going to say it again. Blackology stands at the crossroads, teaching and researching on the topic of black culture, and remains the key intellectual advancement and evolution. This radio network is designed to meet the needs of those leaders who are eager to teach or learn about blackology as one of the key principles in the contemporary evolution of the black world. It begins and brings together and incorporated and defined way of some of the best articles dealing with blackology. There is represented the best research and thoughts of outstanding scholars in the black world, and demonstrates the fact that there is an increasing area of research in blackology. The radio network will be a contribution to the reference work and books for years to come in blackology. The articles in this network radio network exhibit the importance of the theme of blackology as a tool for intellectual evolution in the black world, and emphasize the key roles of blackologists and their comprehensive intellectual, commerce, and cultural dimensions in the 20th century of European time span and second century of the redevelopment of black culture, and drawing upon the wealthy civilizations of black life and struggle in the prior century. This work serves as a key reminder to the contemporary black people of the very important role that blackology and the role of its many intellectuals, leaders have played in the international black African struggle for intercultural evolution and the need for sustained intellectual reflection on this fact. Theoretical framework. The theoretical framework is blackology, cultural values, and tradition as inspiration and intellectual evolution as an angle of vision in the black world. Blackology provides one with an angle of vision that the realization that the black knowledge and information we receive is universal and is deep in specific traditions. It enables us to call into question the dichotomy between institutional and self-education, ways of knowing between universal and local information, between professional and grassroots ways of knowing. It offers us opportunities to consider traditionally black web pages as legitimate sites for information, creativity, and promotion and production. The most relevant framework for blackology, according to Stephen Biko, is the most pertinent weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. The realization by the black man for the need to rally together with his brothers and sisters around the cause of their oppressor, the blackness of their skin, and operate as a group in order to free themselves from the shackles of oppression. That bind them to perpetual servitude. It seems to demonstrate that black is not an aberration from the normal, which is white supremacy. It is a manifestation of a new realization that by seeking to run away from themselves to emulate the white man, black people are insulting the intelligence of whoever created them as black. Blackology therefore takes cognitive of the deliberateness of God's plan in creating black people. It seeks to infuse the black universe with a newly found pride and honor in themselves. Their efforts, their value systems, their cultures, their spirituality, their outlook on life and culture. Blackology further challenges us to grapple with the question of intellectual power. Who defines the authenticity data presented to us, and according to whose terms are we supposed to access and participate in that certainty? Thus, it is not just about who's learning and who's lecturing in the university. It is also about whose facts, whose values, whose traditions, whose ideas, whose methodology, whose experience are captured in the agreed reading and suggested text, as well as in the broader set of courses. This framework suggests that to blackologists, neurological supremacy and Arab imperialism was not just a matter of laws and policies, but also operated at the vicinity of ideals, beliefs, values, aesthetics, and according to schedule. Blackologically in the black world, persuasion, or what we may call ideological domination, was advised through chronological text, fiction, and all orders or forms of writing. We find in institutions of learning whose content was and still is subjugated by the colonizer, their achievements, and their capturing black America, black Africa, and the Caribbean only as attachments, sending the message to black people that the only past that matters is the past of the colonialists. methodology. Basic blackological method of approach is utilizing to explore the narrative of blackology in HBCU libraries and internets. In this methodology, we are looking at the many black historical dialogues or acclamations of blackologists in black African culture, value, and traditions as framework. This detailed expression and events of intellectual evolution in the black world, as well as the ideology of blackology, serve as framework for the radio network. Here, blackologists can apply black historical documents to help in the approval and motivation of black people in the future for intellectual evolution, to impact change and the obvious, reasonable, and conventional conception of solidarity for blackology, thus serve as sequential evidence by which blackologists portray and invent methods to continue the effort for intellectual evolution within the black world. The sequential methodology herein considers similarities in the approach of blackologists, as well as universal communal heritage of black people of the black diaspora and their ancestral homeland, Black Africa. Blackologists also state black historically that the separation of the struggle of black people in the United States from other black people of the African origin, ascension in the black world, is detrimental to the international communal support for black people, while black Africans are considered in this research, and in fact it is focused on the intellectual evolution of the entire black world. Research review. There is a surplus of black historical research on blackology, including which investigates how persons of African ascendance have conceptualized and began to address the intellectual evolution in the black world. There is a sequential tradition of black scholars who have provided videos, audios, oral, and written documents such as Introduction to Blackology 2005, Stephen Biko's 1971, Kwame Ture's Black Power 1976, Martin Delaney's Black Nationalism 1880, W.E.B. Du Bois' Double Consciousness 1903, Kwame Nkrumah's Consciousness 1956 have addressed blackological thought among black people's African ascent. These texts have provided a black historical critique of U.S. black diaspora, black African independence, recommendations for black empowerment, and steps for blackological physical evolution. The intercultural evolution of black people throughout the globe, as explored by Stephen Biko, has set the tone for this literature to become manifested, and it is through the inspiration of intellectual evolution of blackology's expressions that blackologists can begin to highlight the challenges in bringing about the change in the contemplation of blackological collectiveness. There has also been research done to examine the similar plights between black people throughout the black diaspora and our hinterland, quote-unquote Africa, as collective for black scholars, and have begun to reveal the common plight of black people in the black diaspora in Winoka Rashidi's global African presence history notes, he begins to unravel the complex record of African culture and highlights the substantial and sustainability of the Black world. We must not reciprocate in order to build this Blackological cultural science. In order for Black readers to comprehend the nature of our problem and the manner in which my proposal can be defended effectively, I hereby present a number of works that are helpful in my suggested, direct, and specific statement in my examination of the facts of Black African cultural values and traditions as inspiration for intellectual evolution in the Black world. The credible legitimacy and merit of Blackology can be best exemplified through the tradition of uncompromising struggle of these Black scholars, the origin of which began in the 1800s with Dr. Martin Luther King's theory of Black nationalism. Through a careful research, review of resources and sources, I will be able to show the framework in which Black writers have responded to the challenges and problems. Let us examine one by which the sources that have inspired Blackologists and provided the much needed building blocks for this construction of this Blackological intellectual cultural science. One, the Black America double consciousness, W.E.B. Du Bois. The thesis put forward by Du Bois that Black Americans are trapped in a double consciousness between their African heritage and their African American citizenship. It is a double consciousness between Africa and America, and between the two cultures battling for one Black man or woman and one Black culture. There is an obvious identity confusion expression in the character of Black people. Symbolism that points to the general confusion of identity is inherent in Black African experience. Du Bois equates the experience of Black America with striving to create a single consciousness out of the identity made up of dual perspectives. Du Bois writes that one ever feels his two-ness, two born ideas in one dark body. The ancestral feather chain, which still possesses that was wriggled it out of a tree you all used to have. You know what I'm talking about. The very fact that the chain was made from a tree, that its identity was forged into something new based on its labor, value, from something that was naturally formed, is indicative of the striving for a soul about which W.E.B. Du Bois writes. But even before that, there is something more to the importance of the charm. The wood that was in one of its sometime important and of value was fashioned into a butter churn. This is an instrument that takes one thing, milk, and transforms it into something else, butter. W.E.B. Du Bois speaks of merging without losing any essence of the butter churn. The churn is a good instrument or a symbol for that striving as any other item that might have been found in the Black story. We must know that Blackology of cultural science will help us with this double consciousness. Yes, indeed. We look to W.E.B. Du Bois to provide us with this information about the churn. Blackology of cultural science is an ideal whose time has come. E. Franklin Frazier, the new black theology, its meaning and its relevance. As white theology has always functioned as the intellectual expression of American Christianity, the advent of black theology must be read as the determination of black church to reinforce its commitment to evolution. The times are perpetuous. The church has a more sophisticated laity than ever before. The mode of Blackology crosses all denominational and class lines and emphasizes altogether, at least clouds, some traditional distinctions such as color, which have fragmented black togetherness. For the first time, the whole white church is under suspicion. The white church no longer represents the model towards which significant numbers of black citizens aspire. But perhaps more important than anything else is that for the first time, the black church has the available intellectual resources to engage in a serious theoretical debate and to construct for itself a theology consistent with its needs. Blackologically, in conclusion, according to Blackology, the way to evolution is your culture and blackness, not only the use of physical being, but the appreciation of all aspects of gifts that God gave you. This is the essence of black theology. Captivity and enslavement was a total process. The oppressor took the body and the condition of the mind. One of the tools of colonialism was the religions that were forced on those who were subjugated. To be a black Christian is moving forward towards evolution. To be a black theologist and practice black theology is to acquire evolution.